Hey, most excellent rock buddies, Papa here. Hope you guys are doing well today. Our topic is dolomite, also called dolostone. We're going to find out what it is, when it was formed, where you can find it, and why it formed. If you like this video, give me a good subscription. I appreciate so much for everyone who has subscribed. So, here we go with dolomite/dolostone. First, let's get these names figured out. Dolomite is the name that geologists first gave to this mineral and rock that it formed. Since that time, the name dolomite has come to mean the mineral itself, calcium, magnesium carbonate, and the name dolostone means the rock that forms from that mineral. Which is also calcium, magnesium carbonate. The difference between the two is the dolomite is the mineral. If you have a bunch of it in a big formation laid down, that's called dolostone. Here's what dolomite or dolostone looks like. This is a sample from the Lockport dolomite of the Great Lakes. Dolomite is usually white or light gray in color, but it can be brown like this example of bighorn dolomite from out west. And here is a piece of very weathered and altered shady dolomite from the Cambrian rift to drift sequence of deposits. Dolomite even comes in shades of black, but usually it's whitish. A close-up look at dolomite with a hand lens usually reveals what geologists call a kind of sugary texture that's indicative of dolomite. Hey rock buds, here's another good way to identify dolomite or dolostone. Here's a piece of marble, and here's the piece of Lockport dolomite or dolostone. I'm going to call it dolomite because I'm an old geezer. Now, they both look a lot alike, right? And they both have a lot of the same minerals and elements in them. Marble is metamorphosed limestone, which is calcium carbonate. Dolomite is calcium magnesium carbonate. One way to tell them apart is to, as a geologist, you can get you some of this from Amazon. 5% hydrochloric acid solution. I don't know what it's meant to be used for, but it works great for helping to identify rocks. So let's take some of this and we're going to squirt it on our marble specimen. Can you see that fizz? Immediate fizz. The acid is neutralizing the calcium in the marble. Okay, so now we have the dolomite, Lockport dolomite. Put a drop on it, and it doesn't immediately fizz. Matter of fact, it's not fizzing at all. Oh, there it goes, it's fizzing a little bit. So you see there's a big difference there. And now I'm going to scratch this surface with my knife. And see, it's fizzing a little more readily now. So that's the best way to tell marble and dolomite apart. Marble will fizz instantaneously, profusely. The dolomite will just bubble a little bit, but if you scrape it with a knife, it will bubble more. And just for reference, here's a piece of limestone. If you take limestone and metamorphose it, it turns into marble. So let's see what it does to the acid test. See that instantaneous fizz? That's how you can separate limestone and marble from dolomite, limestone and marble from dolomite. Hey rock buds, another great way to help you identify dolostone or really any rock is to look at a geologic map of the area where you are. You can find a fantastic U.S. Geologic Survey digital geologic map by getting on Google, and I type in Georgia Geologic Map Data. That takes me to the digital geologic map of the U.S. Geological Survey. You can type in your state, you can type in any state. When I type in Georgia Geologic Map Data, it takes me to the whole United States. So it doesn't matter what state you type in, you're going to get the digital geologic map for the whole United States. And there you can pinpoint your location there and see what kind of rocks they show as being indicated in that place. Very little dolomite is being formed today, and that is perplexing geologists. In fact, most of the dolomite that's been deposited in the world was deposited during the Silurian period. So let's find out what it was about the Silurian period that caused huge quantities of dolomite to be formed then. During the Silurian period, which lasted from about 450 million years ago to 400 million years ago, the climate was very hot and very dry. Absolutely no plants existed on Earth, so erosion was tremendously massive. Not only that, but the tectonic orogeny volcanoes had erupted out billions and billions of tons of calcium, sodium, magnesium, iron, and sulfur onto the land, and it all drained down into the oceans, making an element soup. Because sea levels were generally lowered during the later part of Silurian, you got these evaporite basins. They would be parts of the ocean that got cut off from the main ocean. The hot climate of the time would evaporate the water out of these basins, leaving thick layers of calcite, which is calcium carbonate, gypsum, which is calcium sulfate, salt, which is sodium chloride, and magnesium. First, all the dissolved calcium turned into limestone, and then the magnesium combined chemically with some of the limestone to form dolomite. And this is the part that geologists aren't really sure about. How did that magnesium get in there and chemically, not just physically, but chemically combine with the limestone? A mystery. Well, I'm thinking, and this is just me, that all that sulfur that had been blown out of these volcanoes and dissolved in the oceans possibly stimulated a rebloom of these sulfur-eating bacteria. And while they were doing their eating process of eating all the sulfur, they also somehow facilitated the formation of the dolomite. Here's some dolomite that was formed not during Silurian time, but during the Triassic period, 250 million years ago to about 200 million years ago. This Triassic dolomite comes from the Dolomite Mountains of northern Italy that were formed during the Triassic time. Now, at the very end of Permian time and the very beginning of Triassic time, Pangaea was beginning to rift apart, and once again volcanoes all over the earth were erupting and spewing out tremendous amounts of sulfur, calcium, magnesium, etc. into the air. It might not be a coincidence that all this sulfur that got dumped into the ocean once again stimulated a bloom of these sulfur-eating bacteria that also facilitated the formation of dolomite. This period of time was called the Great Die-In. It was the greatest mass extinction event Earth has ever experienced. All these horrible chemicals that were spit out by these volcanoes poison both the land and the ocean. On a brighter note, look at this. Everybody recognizes this as Niagara Falls, the famous falls. What has Niagara Falls got to do with dolomite? Back during Silurian times, there was a huge evaporite basin located where most of the Great Lakes are now. Hundreds and hundreds of feet of salt were laid down in the evaporite basin, and then hundreds and hundreds of feet of Lockport dolomite were laid down. Over tens of thousands of years, the Niagara River flowing over this Lockport dolomite ate into it. But because the dolomite was pretty resistant to weathering, it caused, you guessed it, Niagara Falls to develop. Slowly but surely, Niagara Falls is going upstream as the Lockport dolomite is very slowly but surely worn away. That resistant layer of Lockport dolomite that was resting on top of all the salt provided a protective cover for the salt, preserving it so that we could sprinkle it on our veggies today. Okay, most excellent rock buddies, that's dolomite for you. Please subscribe if this was a good video for you, and also please give me comments about anything. I love to answer questions. I love to look at rock specimens, or if you just have questions about life in general. I'm an old geezer and I've been through a lot of life, so I'd be glad to help anybody. All right, this is Papa saying to my rock buddies, have a great day and happy rock hunting.